my Zoom controller backwards for some reason.
That seems terrible. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. I'm joined by Lightning today as my esteemed guest host.
The singular co-host.
I mean, today is just singular. Our usual regular Momo had work schedule and stuff, for this weekend.
Evil work.
Evil work. And there's probably going to be some other special hosts popping up here and there over the next bit. But it is August 28th, 2021. There's some interesting topics to talk about. Magic announced a whole bunch of stuff for their next year. Hands on your phone? I'll throw the docket in the chat here so everybody can see.
Docket.
There's a Resident Evil 3 board game to talk about. Renegade Game Studios has introduced their new RPG system that they're going to be using for a Power Rangers RPG, a G.I. Joe RPG, and a Transformers RPG.
One of those would be interesting. The other ones, I don't know about.
Hey, and Wizkids has a D&D tiny card game thingy that I wanted to talk about because it's interesting. Yeah, and then we'll go into I forgot to put the big discussion topic in.
Oh no!
I know, I'm so bad. I'll have to edit the docket then. I'll do that in a minute. For now, let's talk magic, because I know Lightning, you're not really very familiar with very very basics of it.
I know so very little about magic.
The thing is, they threw out a bunch of announcements which were interesting to say the least. Some of the announcements I feel are good. Gonna be honest, I could talk about their once again going into shit for secret layers, but honestly, I'm just gonna talk about a few of them that they've announced, not the ones that are out now. But I think the big thing to talk about is the interesting direction that they're taking for what the sets they've announced for next year, which are very different. They've announced Kamagawa Neon Destiny, which is effectively cyberpunk, or I'd say more Shadowrun, because I
like that system.
Cyber fantasy. Yeah. It's a high-tech, high-tech world that harkens back to the original Kamagawa, which was feudal Japan. But it's supposed to be cyber ninjas and things like that, and very I guess Blade Runner, Johnny Mnemonic. Again, Shadowrun's probably the best bet for looking at things like that, because Shadowrun is a sci fantasy, and I think that's the kind of direction they probably would have with the aesthetic. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a very huge departure from anything we've seen ever in Magic the Gathering. So, they also announced, of course, the streets of new Capena, which is basically, it's mob. It's a mob set. So it's the idea that it's a city built by angels now run by demon crime families. That's neat. And then 2 sets of Nominaria, which, I don't want to talk about too much. It's one, that's basically a sequel to their last one. Great for me if I'm still doing stuff related to Children of Wrath, because that's more, that's more lore they're adding. And the other one is, a historical set. So it's set, in the, around some other time periods. I think the other stuff I guess I want to talk about is they announced stuff related to Universes Beyond, which we've talked about before. Next year we're getting those Warhammer sets, the 40k ones. And now we know in 2023, not exactly when, that's when we're getting the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth set. which is an entire actual set rather than anything. But no, hey, how about this one? 2 secret layers that they announced that are a sign of the end times. Fortnite and Street Fighter.
Oh. The first one is awful. Oh.
Even the Street Fighter one is so bad. I mean,
I think Street Fighter is more just out of touch with modern, people. But
okay, like, I'll give you Street Fighter, like, aesthetic-wise, martial arts tournament-y, strange powers, things like that. I'll give you that one, okay? I'll give you that at least aesthetic-wise doesn't feel weird, It's like talking about, like, aesthetic. The Kamagawa set they've announced, it is futuristic, but it's supposed to be like, hey, in this fantasy world, go to the future, what would it become? And it's already a world they've established, that they're saying, like, hey, the set we had before, that was 2,000 years ago. We're taking it to equivalent to all the other timelines, modern day. They got technology because they didn't have, like, crappy apocalypses like Dominaria,
Yeah.
Fortnite is just...
That's just cash grab.
Hasn't that... How popular is it now? Hasn't it died? I don't know.
I don't think it's as popular as it used to be, but it's still really popular. I mean, old man grumble.
My honest opinion on the actual game, rather than all the hype or the craziness behind it was fine. I did play it a little bit. I didn't have a hugely good time. I enjoyed playing PUBG more. Honestly, I've tried most of the battle royales at least a few times, and none of them really hooked me. And this one was probably less than other ones. Gonna be honest. And
I remember when Fortnite was a zombie survival build.
Yes, game. I remember that too.
And when I first saw it, it's well, that's kind of a neat concept. And then no one cared, and then they battle royale it, and it was oh, now everyone cares. It's but do you even know what the original game was?
No. The original game was an actual game they sold. The battle royale was it's free.
Yeah. Play our game, please.
And then they were oh, you do play our game. Here's things that you might want to purchase. Yes, yes. Ooh, look at this. It's so shiny. You want to buy it and show it off to all your friends. I think it's that they have too many not their own stuff for my taste. So what the hell are they going to do? Because Fortnite is a billion properties that have they've bought things to do shit with.
Yep.
There's not a feeling of actual originality in it that fills me with that's a Fortnite thing. So when they're saying they're gonna have a secret layer, it's well, it's gonna have it's not gonna be as, I guess, great to the fans in a way too, because it doesn't have it doesn't have what, I don't know. I actually don't know. It's weird.
Maybe it'll bring in Fortnite people, but I don't think the Magic the Gathering people are going to care that much. Unless they're already Fortnite fans.
Yeah. Honestly, there probably is a place where there are the Fortnite and the Magic fans cross, but I gotta admit,
we aren't them.
Yeah, even I feel even fans, it's what are they going to go for? If you're fans of the game and you don't care about because there are people that like the game and don't care about a lot of the other shit they do. Honestly speaking, there's that crowd. The aesthetics don't matter. For Magic cards, part of it is the mechanics and part of it is the aesthetics. If you don't have the aesthetics crowd, I mean and honestly the aesthetics, I feel for those people that like the aesthetics of the Magic crowd, you're probably not gonna like the Fortnite stuff. It's a little too weird,
Cartoony?
So cartoony. So it's like, no, there is one possible thing I can think of that they could do, and I know they're not going to do it. Is that they've always had crazy cartoony stuff in silver bordered cards for their unsets that they've done, that are like, you know, they're comical, they're silly, they're their own things, because you're supposed to be able to tell them.
That would fit Fortnite.
That would fit Fortnite. If they did that, but the problem is, I don't think they're going to.
No, because they probably don't make as much money when they're in like the silly that.
Oh no, the silly stuff, because like, and the thing is, because the silly stuff can't be used anywhere except with other silly games. Yeah. While weird stuff like the secret layers, they say, can be used in modern, other older formats.
Yeah.
See?
Uh-huh.
If they make new cards, and if it's just facelift cards, why? You know, I feel like they're probably not going to go that route. They're going to go the Walking Dead route and do their own things, because people will want that, you know? Because again, like, I feel like that feels like the Street Fighter stuff. They're going to go the Walking Dead route and have, like, you know, Chun-Li and Ken Ryu and Bison and stuff as, like, cards.
I feel like at least Street Fighter has enough of its own personality that it's, you know, can, like, be on its own.
I mean, I admit, I'm not the person for Street Fighter like I was for the person for Walking Dead, but and I didn't really like them. But again, like, I understand them a little bit more than some of this other shit. So, I don't know. Freaking Lord of the Rings. It's just, it's a crazy path they're walking down, and honestly speaking, like, part of me wants to pass it off, but part of me is also like, see the product first, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Be at least reasonable.
I'm not a Fortnite fan person, so that does not interest me at all. But I liked Street Fighter. I played Street Fighter 2, you know, back in the day. But would I go out and buy a Magic deck with Street Fighter? No, because I'm not a Magic person. But, well, like, that's something that I can relate to.
Well, I mean, it's like, it's the difference between, you know, like, Warhammer, Fortnite, and then Street Fighter, Lord of the Rings for these universes beyond. Like, you know, Lord of the Rings, honestly speaking, it's its own, you know, branding, it's its own world, but it's a fantasy world. It fits the concepts of a fantasy-based game, you know? Yeah. Again, and like, you know, Street Fighter has fantasy to it.
It kind of does. I mean, like, what is it, the psychokinesis or whatever?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing that's just in the games. And like, the fireball punch or whatever, the Hadouken or whatever. That's like summoning fire through martial arts. I mean, there's some weird things if you look at the video games in, I guess, a fantasy setting eye. I was going to say D&D, but it doesn't mix with it.
I think it is there's a fine line a lot of times, because the concepts of magic has always been more fantasy. You can be something and fantasy and still work. Like, horror and fantasy was one of their sets, you know, like almost like, I'd say like, what was it, my brain is just anyway, there was the Advention area where my brain is just forgetting the name of the plane right now. That felt a little bit like, maybe a little like, close to steampunk-ish or something, you know? That works, because it's still like got that fantasy. That's why I'm saying, like, you know, the sci-fantasy where, like, hey, it's technically futuristic, but also fantasy could work. You know, things like Warhammer, which feels like it's like Warhammer 40k walked away from its fantasy roots completely, and Fortnite, I don't even know what the hell, like, with how it is, the storyline they're going for anymore. It's fucking like, you know, like, oh, hey, Star Wars shows up, and then Marvel shows up, and then, like, you know, I think I saw like in front of somewhere there was like a commercial like somewhere online, and there was fucking like the alien was there, and I'm like what the fuck are you doing?
Making money.
Yeah, making money and like just that's what they're doing. They're trying their best to make money and keep themselves relevant. Relevant. Oh my god. Relevant. I feel like Magic's just... I don't know what they're trying to do. I feel like they're trying to earn all the money and quotate... They're trying to Fortnite themselves.
They are. It literally is this case. Isn't that how they are partnered with Epic?
Yeah. We'll see how the normal sets go. Hey, let's talk about something that hurts my soul less.
Okay.
I should have linked the Magic one in chat. I'll throw that.
You should have.
But I'll link this one first because I already have the thing copies. Resident Evil 3, the board game.
I just have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Why specifically Resident Evil 3 and not just Resident Evil the game?
You know, because Nemesis.
Was there something special about 3 that they need? Because I feel like you'd have more material to work with if you had, like, just Resident Evil, the board game. Because then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to talk about the ones after that.
I did look into this a little bit, and the thing is, I know that this company had done, Steamforge Games, had done a Resident Evil 2, the board game.
Oh, so it's like a sequel, apparently.
Yes, but there is like a weirdness about this too, because I feel like both of them aren't taking on a aesthetic of the original. No, the remake. They're taking on the original aesthetic a little bit. If you look at the Resident Evil 3 box, the Nemesis they show there is the original version of it.
I'm kind of more of a fan of the originals, though I think the Resident Evil 2 remake was pretty good, but I think the third remake was not good.
The third, okay.
Because they cut a bunch of stuff out?
I'm going to put it this way. Resident Evil 2, the remake, does a really good job. The original game, it's fun. I played it. I definitely played. The remake, I haven't played. I do own it, but I've watched the people play through it, and I have to say, I think they did a very good job of they did what they did for the original Resident Evil and the GameCube, remake. They took the original material, expanded upon it in a good way. Resident Evil 3, unfortunately, was okay. Because what they took was pretty good. They just cut out sections and made it a lot shorter. Now, granted, Resident Evil 3 wasn't a very long game in comparison to Resident Evil 2 anyway, like the original, and there were some issues with the original one that a lot of people forget about. Like, when I watched someone, last year replay the original, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about all this crap that was in there that's probably not good. The problem is, the things that were good that people really remembered, some of it they left out. So it was sort of like, yeah, we did cut out the crap, we just didn't include the good stuff also. We cut a lot of random stuff. So, it's okay as a remake. Regardless, though, they had a method of playing the game in the Resident Evil 2 version of it. They're keeping that for, this new version, Resident Evil 3. Let's see here. They allow you to play as, it looks like... Man, you get to play as Nikolai. He's a jerk and evil.
I don't know who that is.
It's Jill Carlos, Mikhail, and Nikolai.
I think I remember him.
Yeah, Nikolai is the guy that, was betraying from the Umbrella group. He was the one that was really, working for Umbrella and getting information. And they characterize him really worse. Worse not as he's a better villain, just they make him a worse character in the remake. They keep the others pretty well, but Nikolai just, they don't do him well. in the remake. But regardless, yeah. It's an interesting selection of characters for the idea for the game. I mean, it's 28 miniatures, they've got 21 tiles, 140 tokens, 208 cards. It's a bunch. Again, like, just looking for the aesthetic, I do feel like if you're a fan of the original RE3, you'll probably like the aesthetic more than people that are just fans of the new one. And I think that's a weird take for it. Because they did the same for the Resident Evil 2 one, which, I mean, it's fine. You certainly have a lot of people that are, like, returning people. But what about all those people that didn't play the originals? Because, I mean, it's been a long time in between the two of them. And at least 2 decades? 2 decades?
It's been a while. I remember Resident Evil 2 when I was a young one. So, yeah. It's a long time. Like, easily 10, 15 years here.
The PS1 came out in 99.
Mm-hmm.
And PS4 one came out, 21 years later. So,
yep.
Fact is, 21 years is enough for a person to drink. So, yes, there are going to be plenty of people that do not recognize the original aesthetic.
The game is old enough to legally buy alcohol in the United States. That's a long time.
Yeah, before they cloned it.
Oh no.
I mean, no
more cloning.
That's what they effectively did. They created an evil clone. It's a cooperative campaign game. That's cool. I mean, honestly, like, the not just the aesthetic, this type of gameplay that's cooperative, that's 1 to 4 players, that's like surviving against like an onslaught of things. I'm not against them.
I'd prefer it, honestly, if I had a choice.
Yeah, I think like nowadays my aesthetic is either, the games that I like are either semi-cooperative, cooperative, or I don't mind competitive games where you don't really affect the other player directly. You know, those kind of things, where you can maybe cause some indirect stuff to other players, but you're not very aggressive. It's sort of like you're playing against yourself and seeing how good you can do with your draws and like what you do. And whether or not that does anything to other players or not, you're not trying for that kind of thing. You know, I guess it's friendly cooperative. Yeah, I don't mind those. Yeah. Or friendly competitive too. I don't mind those where it's just like, oh, hey, I'm just built like Ticket to Ride. I still like Ticket to Ride. You can screw over another player. You're not trying to. You can do it. Anyway, but no, cooperative ones are always fun. Neat that they're doing it. I don't know what direction overall they're heading with their like product line on this one. What are they going to do next? Code Veronica, which look, honestly, I did like Code Veronica, but that's besides the point.
I remember when that came out, and I'm like, I don't get it. I think it was like a PSP too, wasn't it?
It could have had a PSP version, because like they had a lot of like weird versions of it, because it was originally PS2 and Dreamcast. Ooh, Dreamcast. Sega's last system.
That's a system.
It's not a bad system. I own one somewhere. I think it's over there. I've played a good 3 games on it, because I only own 3 games for it, honestly. I think I own like a Japanese game because it can play imports. I own Typing of the Dead, and I own one more, and I forget what that is.
I have a PS3, and I have like 3 games for it. It's like there's so many games for that system. Not quite as much, I don't think, as PS2. Because PS2 was crazy.
PS2 was crazy.
But it's kind of like, I got this. I got it at a pretty good deal. And then I played like the game I wanted for it, and then like I got some other ones. And then it's kind of like, I don't know what else I want for this. I think I'm kind of done with consoles.
When my PS3 died again because I had one of the original ones, so it needs to have that soldering refixed. because there's a type of soldering in there in the original line of PS3s that can wear out. I fixed it like a couple of times. The third time I was like, fuck it. Granted, every time you resolder it, it's not quite as good as the first, so it only lasts a couple years after that, and I played it a shit ton, but by the time that died the last time, I also had the miracle of, hey, a computer that can run games.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had, like, a gaming PC, mostly, but, PC didn't have as much support as consoles for, like, video games.
Oh, yeah. I think I had some systems that could sort of run Command and Conquers back in the day.
Yeah, I think I played Age of Empires 2 and StarCraft, mostly for PC, and then eventually I got Diablo 2.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, that was late 90s.
Yeah, so, I think, post that PS3 generation, didn't get a PS4, don't know if I'll get a PS5. I mean, there's games on there that I would love to get, but is it worth it? I think the closest one that's maybe worth it for me to possibly get nowadays is I've thought about getting a Switch, because there's plenty of stuff on there that I would like.
I feel like Nintendo is the only console these days. We're way off topic.
Yeah.
Apparently I'm a tad low.
I tried turning you up a little bit. I don't know if I fixed you.
Well, I don't know if I'm still low or not, but
yeah. If anybody's in chat, just let us know if Lightning's still low. I can play it.
Nintendo doesn't release their games to PC, but Sony and Microsoft do. So consoles are not as major as they used to be.
Well, it's sort of okay. So there are a couple of Sony exclusives. I played the original God of Wars back in the day. I would have loved to play the new one on PS4. Not enough of a game on its own. Then again, things like the Final Fantasy VII remake. Final Fantasy VII is not my favorite Final Fantasy. I liked it a lot. I kind of want to do the remake, I liked a bunch of those Final Fantasies during the PS1, PS2 era. Those were the ones I played a lot of. Granted, I did start with the... I think my first really good one is I did play 1 and then 6. That was 3 on US. But
6 was really good.
Yeah, 6 was really what got me into it. So then when 7 came out, I'm like, I recognized in my own way I didn't like it as much, but I still liked it a lot because it was cool in 3D graphics. So that's why I'm like, I would love to play that. It's not out yet. They're saying we're going to bring it to Steam at some point in time, but anyway.
Yeah, when?
But getting back on a topic of other things, so Resident Evil 3 board game, it's cool. I'd definitely try it, I'm technically a fan of Resident Evil. It's one of those things is I probably should play on stream. I've got a bunch of Resident Evils. There's a lot of stuff that I want to play on Steam and stream I don't. Horror games is it's hard for me to be well, I've played them before, or I know them a little bit because but I could play them myself, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway. Let's talk Renegade Game Studios.
I'm afraid. Should I be afraid?
Maybe.
I mean, it sounds like I should be. How long you're taking?
Honestly, it's this weird point in time where I don't know enough about the Essence 20 system that they have, because it's a D20 based system. The core mechanic for resolving rolls, player rolls a D20 with their skill dice, along with their skill dice, which their skill dice ranges from a D2 to a D20.
A D2? Like a coin?
It's probably at least like a D4, D6 or something with just 2 numbers that they repeat, kind of thing.
That's possible.
The idea of skill dice I don't mind, because I liked Earth Dawn, which had it that the more skill you had in something, the larger dice you got.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So you started off with a D, I think it was a D4, and you get if you're bad at it, D6 is you're just basic, and I think when you got to the legendary levels of stuff, you'd have 2 D20s that you'd roll for the skill. So I mean it's the dice were bigger. So I don't mind that kind of like growing strength. Now, the games that they're putting out with these are what's interesting. So, like,
hey, I'm just gonna say it right now. I watched Power Rangers when I was young. Okay,
I remember it.
I'm okay with that one.
I remember watching the original one.
Yep,
I think it was original in space, and then it was like I was getting to the age where it was a little too campy.
I don't remember the one that came after the original.
I think it was space. It might have been. I'm not sure. Where they finally got like entirely new team. Yeah, it was like.
Oh, well, yeah, because in the original run they had the same 4 or 5, and then they had Tommy joined, who was good then bad then good then bad, which was really annoying even to young Lightning. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that's happened over the entire course of my life. Is I've always hated stupid bullcrap in television shows and stuff because I hated it back then. But then some of the original team left and got replaced.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched when they got the full team replaced. So it had to have been like the second or third, or no, the third or fourth Zoid change.
Yeah. Like I watched until like the original continuity was kind of replaced. Is what I mean. Like they replaced it to like a weird space travel-y thing. I think maybe where it was like
that sounds familiar.
Entirely new continuity. Anyway, it was around then anyway, like, by then, like, I realized, you know, I probably young me in, like, my, like, early teens realized, like, hey, you know, I'm pretty sure I realized that they've, like, you know, stolen something and dubbed it over, you know?
No, they would never do that.
But, no, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, Transformers. That's okay, Power Rangers, that seems pretty simple. You're a group of Rangers, you're fighting some kind of evil, you know, monster of the week kind of battles. You probably, I'm assuming like in more modern things, you know, though the stories are probably simple, you could probably come up with something that's like, got a little bit of complexity to it, you know. You certainly could deal with like character dynamics and issues in the characters' lives that would, you know, add role-playing moments. I can see that one working.
I mean, if you look at Power Rangers in like there was the human side where they weren't all powerful. They were high school kids.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, yeah, you can't just solve all your problems by punching monsters because there's not always monsters to punch.
And I think that's why, like, when I look at it in general, I'm like, that's one of the ones, like, if we would talk about another system that uses it, Bessem, like, one of their ones is, like, Sentai teams, which, if you don't know, Sentai teams were the shows that they took and made into Power Rangers. Granted, there were other shows that were out there, and there were ones that weren't. There's lots of different types of Sentai teams. It's been a popular genre. I think they probably still do them in Japan, you know.
I would be surprised if they did not.
I don't know what the modern... There probably is like a modern version of what the series... I forget what the fuck the series that went into become Power Rangers is, but I'm pretty sure they've got like modern versions of that one too. But, alright, G.I. Joe. That's an interesting one, because again, like, now you're just dudes with weird gimmicks that are fighting like, other people. I mean... Power Rangers, at least, I feel like, granted, like, not to say that you couldn't take it seriously, but I feel like even if there's, like, a level of silliness to it, it's never that much. Like, G.I. Joe never has gotten away from silliness successfully, ever?
I mean, they've tried with more modern movies, but how successful they've been at that? Or I don't know. Not very?
Like, I gotta be honest, I did watch both of them on TV, eventually. The first one they did, too serious. The second one, I felt like, you know, they were going too much into the camp at that point in time. You know, it's sort of like, it's really hard to, like, balance, like, a little bit of seriousness and then the campiness that was truly the essence of what the fuck G.I. Joe was, which is 80s
also,
cartoon cell toys. Yes, no one ever died.
They just parachuted out to safety.
Yeah, like even generic people. Like I understand, like you could probably kill off generic dudes, but it's kind of like a lot of like darker and grittier things where they like kill off characters that in other versions of it wouldn't have died off. You're like, well, you're kind of getting rid of someone's favorite, you know? It's kind of hard to do that and keep people happy in a way.
Because they're also trying to sell toys at the same time.
And that's a hard one to do, to like have some modern aesthetics. Like granted, you could introduce a character for like a small story arc and then kill them off or something, maybe, but I don't know. Something
or
new.
Maybe that's the reason for you to go on the mission.
Yeah.
This dude died. We gotta go and avenge them or something or whatever. I don't know. Go Joe!
Yeah, like G.I. Joe is like Power Rangers, you're beating up and destroying monsters, you know. G.I. Joe, you're shooting the shit out of people.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different.
It's definitely a little different, and I feel like, you know, it's like the idea of, like, playing in a D&D game. When you're playing, like, a normal character, you're fighting against monsters, or maybe, like, wicked bandits or something, where maybe you'll try to take the bandits alive or something, where if you're using a sword, you could be like, I just used the back end of my sword. G.I. Joe, you're shooting the bitch.
Yeah, you can't really non-lethally shoot someone.
Yeah.
In the real world, anyway.
But like, maybe maybe your net launcher, and you have like a net that you launch out.
There you go. You got gadgets that are non-lethal. So like if you shoot a guy in the leg, yeah, he may not die from it, but he still has a bullet wound.
Where in the real world, I could stab you with the edge of a sword, or I could back end you with the sword and maybe try to knock you out. You know, I could turn it on its side. You know, something like that.
Just internal bleeding. It's slightly less dangerous.
I mean, he'll be alive at least, probably.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, for a little bit. Oh. And then, of course, Transformers, where I'm like, are they going like 80s Transformers, where it's the same as G.I. Joe, where they're never destroyed, or are they going with Michael Bay Transformers, where everything dies?
Explodes.
And dies, yeah. Where everything explodes and dies. We're like, well, we could have had with the same characters that people love, or, you know, since we blew up all the old characters, we're just gonna have new ones. You know?
Yeah, it really depends on which Transformers you go with.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I feel like from the aesthetic of the other games, they're probably gonna go more 80s.
I hope so.
And then at a point in time, you know, I don't know how that game would play out, because you transform into a car or a boat or a plane.
And then you explode a bunch of other
They just explode because you're a car.
Yeah, you just punch a jet with your car. Transformers was very silly. All right, you can't unsilly Transformers.
No, you can't. You really can't. I mean, Michael Bay tries for it with explosions, but it just becomes too many explosions. Then
it becomes a different type of silly at that point.
And then it's just like, what's the point? Because everything either explodes or dies, and you're like, well, how can I get connected to these like characters that you're establishing? Because you blow them up like 3 minutes into meeting them. You're like, I am the Autobot, blah blah blah. And it's like, oh, the villains are here. I'm Decepticon, blah blah blah,
Yeah, or they survive something that they shouldn't have been able to survive because of plot reasons.
Yeah, plot reasons.
Yeah, let me get back into the blah 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 lightning old man grumble.
Well, I will argue for the Michael Bay produced, not directed movie. Bumblebee was actually pretty good because less explosions and more actual character.
I never saw that.
It was actually pretty good. Like if that was like that was the kind of thing I'm like, it's focused on the one character, but it felt more actual, like original Transformers or any of the TV series that exist, any of them which the movies have never captured. Like even the modern day ones, nothing explodes stupidly. sometimes the more modern ones do have, like, characters' death, and, they play better, but not random explosions. Explosion!
Man, I don't know if I could play something without random explosions.
I mean, we could have them anyway. And it's sort of like, oh no! My factory has exploded! Ah! I'm okay, though, somehow, because I was over here as the random human.
Behind this half cover.
The random humans. Save us, Autobots! The Decepticons are stealing or creating energon cubes from our oil! Or something.
That's America's problems. When you involve oil, I'm sorry.
I mean, they made everything into energon cubes in the original. They're like,
I don't remember that.
They needed energon cubes for reasons that I don't remember the hell out of, but I remember they're like, this, like, the nuclear power plant, we're going to steal its energy for energon cubes, and I'm like, what if, like, nowadays I'm like, what about the radiation? And they're like,
everything's fine, don't worry about it.
We're attacking the dam with its, electrical power plant on it, for energon cubes.
Everything is energon cubes.
It really was in the original. Oh my god. And Megatron became a gun.
Yeah, Megatron was a gun. I prefer when Megatron was a dinosaur.
Yeah, Beast Wars
was so much better.
Beast Wars was good. Mm-hmm. Beast Wars was silly in its own ways, but it was good.
Yeah.
But, honestly, for this one, like, the game, the system they're using, the mechanics, doesn't sound terrible. I mean, again, like, I'd probably have to test them out. The brands they're doing, meh. I don't know. We're just gonna have to see how, when they put them out. Apparently, like, I've been seeing stuff on Renegades. They have been previewing the Power Rangers role-playing game with a bunch of people.
I saw that. There was an advertisement for people that are going to be streaming it.
Yeah, so if you want to check it out and get an idea of it, that's probably the best bet.
Not listen to two old people grumble.
I mean, again, like, the Power Rangers one was the one I was like, yeah, it's probably the better of the three. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, it probably is, honestly.
Might not be terrible. Who knows? We'll have to find out.
Slightly less bad.
Slightly less bad. Anyway.
What else do we have?
What else do we have? I got one more topic for the main topics today before we move on to our deeper discussion. Here we go. This is the name. Dungeons & Dragon Dungeon Scrawler's Hero of the Undermountain.
That's a mouthful.
Yes. That is a hell of a mouthful. Yes.
It is a board game?
Yeah.
So it's like a maze or something.
It's like a build your own maze type game where you
delve into Undermountain, which is in the Forgotten Realm setting with Hallister, the Mad Mage. That's me remembering that stuff off the top of my head, not reading it off the page.
Yes.
I only know that because of the video games.
Acceptable, I guess. But no, yeah, you use your markers to track your path, defeating monsters, casting spells, connecting artifact fragments, collecting shiny treasure on the way. The round ends when one player defeats the mighty boss of the dungeon. Then you have a little bit to collect loot as much as possible, and the player with the most points after exploring 3 dungeons wins, which I assume you kind of explore dungeons by playing. I'm assuming you have like a handful of
I think you
map
build
cards.
the dungeon.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like from looking at it there.
You pick out of the, was it 10, and you make a 3 card dungeon, I think is what it said.
Yeah. It's neat. It's an interesting little way of doing things.
I mean, this to me really sounds like it'd be something that if you have younglings, to introduce them into D&D in a way that's not a 1,000-page rulebook.
Yes, the basic idea of exploring some dungeons and battling some creatures and getting some things. So yeah, they claim it's over 100 different 3-mage combinations to do it all. It contains 10 unique mazes of increasing complexity. So I guess it's 10 to the third. No,
Math?
it'd be 10 times 9 times 8, technically. Yeah. 720 combinations if you're using 3 different ones, and the order matters. If the order matters. If the order doesn't matter, it's far less than that, but still.
That sounds like too much math.
And, I mean, it's basics.
I wasn't thinking that hard about it.
I'm sorry. No, it's even better. It's 20 double-sided dungeon sheets for each of 10 different dungeons. Oh, okay, so I think order can matter and there can be repeating. So it's actually even crazier, like, the combination. I would have to look into how...
That's a lot of replayability.
Yeah, because each dungeon would be slightly different. And I'm sure, like, the things on the dungeons mark it and stuff, too. So character tiles, key tokens, orb tokens, rulebook. They give you dry erase markers. So I assume it's like laminated stuff you draw on, yeah.
Yeah, you mark your path to the dungeon.
Granted, stuff like that...
Good way of keeping track.
It is, but stuff like that can wear out, too, or, like, make marks that can't eventually get rid of, and so, like...
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how much you're freaking playing it.
Yeah.
$25, it's a neat little thing here. It's interesting.
It's a pretty decent price.
Yeah. Certainly, neat enough, and it definitely... Is it D&D enough? I for the D&D title on it, I don't know, honestly.
I mean, it looks like it's using, like, the D&D, like, rules. Because you have, like, rogue, cleric, barbarian, ranger, wizard? Is that what I'm reading here?
I like how, like, all of them have, like, pencils or papers or something. Like, the tiefling has, like, a weird, if you look at the box... has like the marker, double-bladed marker or something.
Oh, they do.
The elf has got like the one-handed one. The halfling has double pens, like the half-orc.
The barbarian has a huge
one.
Huge marker. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's very, very silly. It's kind of neat. Yeah.
I mean, they're using Undermountain, which is a D&D thing, Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
They're using the classes and races from D&D. I'd say it's D&D enough to be D&D branded.
Okay. Cool. So, let's talk about our deeper discussion topic for today, because I thought of one that's very good when it was just going to be the two of us, because we are DMs, through and through.
I mean, I'm kind of a DM. I have run games.
Saving your game versus bad luck. When the dice rolls can throw things out of whack in your game, is the idea. So, this is a thing that, honestly, can happen. It's sort of like... I'll give a good example of, like, hey, I'm having my team fight this monster. They're all level 5. It's a challenge 5 monster. Total party wipeout. Or like a challenge 4 thing can like get you to that point in time where it's like, well, my team's about to die completely. Huh. Like the team can constantly roll 1s and your monster can constantly roll 20s.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to what you want out of your game. Because if it's one of those games where the players and the DM at the beginning of the game had an agreement of like, hey, whatever happens, then I think that's just how it is, that's just where the game ends, and either you have a scenario where someone can come to like recover the bodies and they get resurrected if you are feeling like if they want to keep their characters, or they roll new characters. The other is if like you didn't have that agreement, then there's always the options of, now granted it super depends on the creature you're fighting, but the chance of them just not killing you. Maybe you get kidnapped or something, or you get left for dead, and then well, it's kind of maybe not great. You can have it where like a traveling adventurer band comes and finds you and nurses you back to health.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as the DM, you have complete control of everything. Even if you're open rolling, for example. Let's say you're open rolling so you can't hide the numbers. Okay, so that's facts. This crit, it happened. That damage, it happened. But you don't have to say that they're trying to kill you, especially in 3rd edition. Or 5th edition, sorry. Brain.
I mean, like, 5th edition, I think, is a lot more flexible for solving a lot of problems that can come up based on, well, random chance. But I feel like random chance can have, like, weird effects on your game no matter what. And I think it's one of those things that if you're going to DM, you have to be ready for, because you don't know. Like, I think we've talked about before, you don't want to lock things behind a dice roll, but sometimes, logically speaking, a dice roll would reveal things to people, and honestly speaking, they could roll so bad, you're like, I can't really in good consciousness tell them this shit, you know?
Yeah.
Then it's like, you have a problem, and problems can be solved. It's just, you gotta find a creativity to it and be ready for that creativity. And again, like, I think situationally, there can be much more difficult times than others. And, you know, coming up with something very elaborate that solves the problem can occur. Maybe it's not always fun to occur, but you gotta do it sometimes. Ugh.
Yeah. A lot of it, I mean, we say this a lot, but a lot of it really kind of comes down to your table. Which feels like an excuse, but it's also like just the answer. But you know, if you know, like we'll go back to the scenario of like everyone dies. If that was what you wanted, then that's fine. If the group is fine with it, then that's fine. If they still want to continue playing in that world, well, maybe now you have an opportunity to have like, maybe not give them the exact same level, but like, hey, you know, your group, they were level 5 or something.
Yeah.
So let's say they come back as level 4, but you're gonna have them get to level 5 faster than you had before. And now, well, level 5 is pretty well known, usually in Adventure World. You're definitely getting up there in the you can handle things. So your previous party could have had a reputation, and now, depending on the game, that could be a mission for a new group to go and figure it out. Like, hey, they were going after this one thing over here, but you know they haven't come back. So you can have them get that second chance with a new group of characters.
Yeah.
While still being in the same world.
And I think it comes down to there's so many factors. The unfortunate thing that when the dice start causing problems, you have to look at a lot of these factors, like your table, certainly, the people you have, both players and characters. You have to look at what kind of story you're telling. Like, honestly speaking, if you're telling a story that's probably involves minimalistic character death, if any, you know, it's not that you're getting rid. You never want to really necessarily get rid of that, but you know, making it that like, you know, it's the emotional thing. Like I would say, like, you know, Kelmer's death. That was a big thing because, you know, that was like, you know, in the game we've talked about in the past. You know, that worked. On the other hand, there are times that it doesn't work. Like if you're telling your Lord of the Rings story and not your Boromir dies, followed quickly by your Aragorn, you got some problems because you're missing your Aragorn now. You know? Your Boromir wasn't as important. But your Aragorn, shit, what am I going to do about this? You know, story-wise. Granted, I'm not saying, like, every character should be that important. But if you establish something that maybe is very helpful or related to a character, that makes them important and a part of the story, you really need to figure out a way to get through that before they, maybe you're moving on to the next person or something like that. Like if there's a part of every story for every character, well, get done their story before they get murdered off. I don't know. It's just it's hard. And I know it's also like outside of the storyline, it can be frustrating either way is the problem too. Because honestly speaking, if I'm playing a character and, I'm trying to at least do something okay, and constantly rolling badly, failing, I've got like a streak of like, I think there have been sessions of a game where I've not rolled above like a 5 on a D20. Those are bad days.
Every time we play Thursday.
You're sitting there and you're just rolling and you're like, oh my god, I just can't roll for crap.
Roll perception, everyone. No one rolls above a 10. Okay.
It feels bad. And like, as much as it might feel bad for you and frustrating for you, maybe like as a DM, because like, on the other hand, it's like there is no challenge, it's too easy, and it's causing issues that way. Players, they can have frustration. So there's so much frustration that can occur, and I think that's the other thing that's connected to this, because rather than saving your story, saving your characters, sometimes you have to worry about saving your table, because frustration can lead to tables breaking apart. So like, the idea of saving your game is on a lot of different levels that freaking dice rolls and luck can have a huge impact on.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes you may just need to, like, stop. Like, if people are actually getting mad about, like, the rolls just being terrible and stuff, then it's a little bit easier, I guess, in person. I personally have never had in-person games. Maybe one day, but probably not. But, like, you could be like, all right, let's take a small break, and stand up, snack break, bathroom break, whatever. Yeah. And then, like, come back. Or if it's an online one, to just stop early and then just be like, have a cool down moment where you just like BS about something, and, that is better than pushing forward with a terrible situation that could have people upset about something that they shouldn't really be upset about, in the context of it's a game and everyone's there to have fun. Rather than push the story forward, it's better just be like, hang on, let's just stop for a minute here.
Yeah. Where was it? It was during a game in the last couple of months that I actually had one of those frustrating moments. And the thing
was it second edition Pathfinder?
It might have been that, like, my rolls were going so badly, things were falling apart so badly, I was getting frustrated. And our game master made a very poor choice of trying to patronize to me, and I'm like, at that point in time, that really got me. Now, granted, I managed to maintain myself and just like, no, I'm just going on it, pass by me, nothing more, let's not talk about it anymore. Like I just move on, but I said that basically because I knew if that continued, I would have snapped, sort of that thing. It's like, you are doing the wrong thing, do not patronize to my, like, getting frustrated with these rolls being, like, not rolling above a 5 and just failing spectacular repeatedly, really badly. Sort of like, it's like, you can get so frustrated, especially, like, if it's, like, and like, granted, like, maybe you're not rolling that badly, but maybe it's sort of like, here's these 3 key rolls. Roll, like, all, like, 1s and 2s for them. Oh, hey, these rolls that are BS that don't mean anything. Roll like a 20 for that one. Great!
Oh, that's me. That's me all the time. Be like, let's just, have a perception as you're walking around town. Oh, there's like a 25. I'm like, cool. It's a nice, peaceful town. And that's it. It's like, all right, cool. I guess I learned that the town's peaceful. And then it's like, all right, you're heading off to the dungeon. Roll a open lock or whatever. Oh, nat 1. Well, there was a trap, and the door explodes, and dice. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. You take 35 fire damage. Well, how much hit points do you have? 31. I'm down. Or let me do a callback here. Okay, so you trigger the trap. Here's 50 fire damage. Well, that's a lot of fire damage. Well, how much hit points do I have? Oh, let's see. Well, I'm low level. I have 27. That's a couple hit points shy of a complete kill, where there is no chance to save. You are just dead. That is also really bad. And sometimes that can happen. That usually, if you have a trap, because since we're talking about, this kind of scenario, if you have a trap that can potentially one-shot kill any of your characters, any of your party, especially if you have like a wizard or a sorcerer or some of the more squishy people, you really need to look at the hit points of your party and be like, am I comfortable with the chance that this trap could just one-shot KO the group? Like literally, in retrospect of massive damage happening.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, as a DM, I would say no. I tend to not use traps unless I'm trying to get a point across.
Yeah.
So, let's say we're in a dungeon, and I'm the DM, and the party is not taking it very seriously, and I have some very dangerous things that are going to be happening. And either the things they've encountered so far have been like easy, or they've been rolling really well, and I've been rolling really crap, and it's kind of like, wow, I really need to make sure they understand that this is a very dangerous area. I might throw in a trap, but a trap would be replacing an encounter, because that's kind of what traps are. Traps are a type of encounter. So you're probably going to want to remove one of your combat encounters, like dungeon or creature encounters, and replace it with a like a trap or something, because there is the chance that they just take a bunch of damage from it, which is the same as getting into a fight. That's kind of something I think some people forget, that's a thing.
Yeah. I think a really great example that I will always say, which I was fortunate that my the GM at the time was nice enough to not outright murder me, was I was playing a character with low constitution, playing an elf, so you have a negative constitution. So I had basically I think I had like a 7 constitution, because I was playing, and because elves is Pathfinder, elves have -2, so that was, I put a 9 in there. Yeah, I encountered a trap that killed me exactly.
Yeah.
And when we were first level.
Oh.
So he was like, do you want to rearrange your stats slightly? So I'm like, now I have an 8 constitution. I was like, yeah. I can do that. Oh, hey, I have... It really only gave me, like a round to live, but that was enough for, the tough player to... the cleric to jump down and be like, heal check.
Yeah, I healed them.
It was enough to save me, or do something to be like, well, yeah, you're okay then. But it was sort of like a, welp. And the thing is we all had made perceptions against the trap, and it was even difficult to set off, and it was I think I rolled because it was set to a lock that I was picking, and I rolled really crappy, so I set off the trap.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of we all rolled badly got me to that situation. Because apparently I was the only one that could pick locks, though, and I was like, I'm a bard. I'm a bard with low health. I am not a melee. I'm not really necessarily a melee bard, thank you. So, that's, an easy situation to, fix things, especially because, I think we were doing it... that adventure was very story-driven. So it's not we couldn't have character deaths. It was just, probably if you would die, you're not being replaced right away kind of thing. If what it was. Is you maybe had you would have had maybe to figure out a time when a new character could come in. it wasn't easy. So, I mean, again,
sometimes it's a really easy thing where,
yeah,
like in the case of a trap, I would just say like, oh, you know, you had something and you're probably still alive. But there's another problem with that though, because this happened to a friend of mine, and at the time I was like, you know, your character's alive, don't worry about it. But then it happened to me, where the dice rolls and everything was against me. I failed this thing, a bunch of damage happened, and the DM was like, I don't want your character to die, so I'm choosing them to not die. And then I was like, wait, I'm playing a character that should be dead now. And when I was on the other side of that, I was like, hey, your character, you know, you can play your character, don't worry about it. And it really, really bothered me. And then, so when it happened to me, I understood. It's like, yeah, I can see where they're coming from, because, like, at the time, I don't think I was super attached to my character, which is usually not the case for me, because I usually tend to really enjoy my characters. I put a lot of time and effort into them. But the game that they were in was still pretty new, and the character wasn't very old, and I'm like, oh, man. And so I kept going. I didn't make like a big stink about it, but it came up to a point kind of in the game where it's like, hey, we've been playing for a little bit of time. You know, if you're not happy with your character, then you know now is the time. This would be like people can like come in and change, and that plus the fact that I wasn't really happy with the build I was working with, because it didn't quite fit. I don't know if we rolled for stats, but I ended up not. I needed too many things. Like I was playing like a monk or something, right? And monks just need too much stuff.
Yeah.
And also there was like certain equipment that I was really spacing my concept on that I don't think I was ever going to have access to. So that was like, well, then the entire character concept is kind of ruined because of that. And they also should be dead technically. So I was like, I'm just going to make a new character. And I had a lot more fun with that character.
Well, it's so situational for that one there, too. Like, my character that got saved, honestly speaking, like, it's a little less like that one. We hadn't been playing for very long. We were like, you know, I don't know if we'd gotten, I don't think we'd quite gotten our second level there. But this was like part of like a prison escape. So it's sort of like, granted, like, there could have been opportunities maybe, but it was also part of like some pre-made maps and stuff. So like we had already explored like the prison level. There were no other prisoners, you know. We basically had like gotten to the section where we were making like through an ancient like catacombs to escape the place, you know. There really wasn't a place for a new character to come in at that point in time, honestly. For like, it would have been like 4 or 5 sessions. Because, you know, us escaping and then, like the way the characters were acting and, you know, like, the things that they were encountering. Yeah, no. You know, once you're out of the prison, you're not communicating with people directly and being like, hey, how's it going, you know?
Hey, I just broke out of prison. What are you guys up to?
Yeah. It just wouldn't have worked very well, and I think, like, I definitely sensed that at the time. I'm like, ooh, this is, you know, I'm like, what do you want to do? You're the one that, like, you know, freaking, like, got me into a trap and rolled max damage on it kind of thing, too, you know, like, all these bad rolls, and then, like, you know, super, because it's Pathfinder, you have to get to, like, a certain negative hit points, you know, so it was like, that's right, I had 2 extra rounds, because not only was it 1 more round that I had to live when the Constitution went up 1 point, but also the negative went down, or was 1 less, so I had like 1 more hit point. So it was sort of like that, I had 2 rounds to live, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was.
I mean, it depends. You really, a lot of the times, it's like you talk to your player.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And it comes down to a lot of issues too with like rolls and stuff. You gotta be ready for the dice to create hiccups, because they're always going to create hiccups, and a lot of times those are minor hiccups that you don't really have to do a lot about, or it just creates a little bit of random chance and things. But random sometimes is patterns, like rolling 3 ones in a row.
Yeah.
Was that during Numenaria I did that? When I was doing that one shot? Yeah, I rolled 3 ones in a row.
You ultra failed.
That was so ultra failed. So I think I used an experience, and then some other people used some experience, and then I used another experience, and the 4th time was charm, and I hit well. But then I decided that I was a Time Lord after that, so it was a funny thing because we were in a place that had weird wonkiness with time, so our person in charge described it as like, it was like a repeating time loop of trying to hit this thing. So I'm like, I've mastered time powers, bitches! I had it.
Yeah. So there's ways that you can make it narrative focused.
Yeah.
If the players are okay with you, like, taking away the dice aspect of it, or you can have it where the players are like, no, I'm okay with dying. Maybe not a total party kill, but in the case of a total party kill, you can have it where, like, hey, this other group are gone, you know, go find them. And it could also be they don't just murder you and leave you dead on the floor, you know. They capture you, and now you have, like, a prison escape mission. Because, like, those don't usually come up that often.
Yeah, and I think, like, if we step away from, like, the character death side of things and get to, like, other dice rolls in general, I mean, like, there are other bad things that can happen to characters that are related to dice rolls, and that kind of comes down to what the other players do sometimes a little bit, you know, like, for failed saves and stuff like that. But, like, failed skill checks, especially failed perception checks that could be, like, important, or investigation checks, yeah, those, you gotta be creative. And honestly speaking, sometimes maybe just taking, like, a short break might help too. You know, something that if you need time to think of something, take a break. Just keep going for a little bit, and then, like, you know, like, if someone's, like, searching a room, and you're like, there's a hidden journal here, and, you know, people roll, and literally no one rolls above a 10. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to have them find that hidden journal, because that's just bad. And I'm like, it was supposed to be hidden. Well, what do I do now? Honestly, then you have to think about, like, depending on the information you're going to share, be creative in showing it off. Like, maybe, you know, like, you find something in another room that says, oh, hey, like, I think he's got a secret journal there, you know, or something like that. So then they go and search again, or, you know, have someone that will tell them the information, or, you know, you gotta be ready for that, not necessarily that you're locking a roll behind a check, because, you know, that usually I feel like that's when you put a DC very high and expect them to do it. If I give someone a DC 10 check just because it should be a DC 10 check and no one succeeds at it, that's just sad.
So there's a big article that I read a long time ago. It's specifically about having things behind checks. If there's a secret and you're supposed to find the secret, but they have to roll to find the secret, the thing was they were saying is they have it 3 separate checks that will all basically lead to the same thing. And they could be different things. It could be like, well, one of them is perception, if you just find something. Or maybe it's investigation. You know, as in you're searching around the room and you find a button to push. You wouldn't see the button glancing around, but if you looked around, you'd see, like, oh, the dust and the paint is disturbed here. Yeah. And then, like, a third one, I'm not sure in the case of investigation what it could be, but, like, maybe history, like, you know something about this area, and there was, like, this one rumor or tale of, like, this secret passage or something. And that's something else. If you want to have something that's behind a check, you need to make it that they will get it. Yeah. Because otherwise, the story just ends at that point, because it's behind the check.
Yeah. You got to be careful with those. You don't, like, you know, it's sort of like the fallacy of carrying crown, I feel like, is a good one for that, because there were a lot of things that were check related that I don't know if you necessarily could say they are behind a check, but there was a check related, and if no one made them, is it necessary or not? And it's a weird point in time because it could be helpful, but it's not. And then it's like, well, then there's a lot of story that's not being revealed, and it's like that's a weird part of like pre-made adventures, and you can do that in your own adventures too, where you're like, it depends on like what you're going in depth and designing too. The problems with checks exist because there are a check and there is a random chance to them. So you have to be ready for that random chance and plan for it, regardless if the check is made or not. I think that's the proper way of saying it. Like, if it's something that the players need, either just give it to them, or like if they're supposed to work for it, do something that makes them feel they've worked for it.
Not just give it to them.
Yeah, not just give it to them, and maybe not make it just like, we're searching this room. It could be, you had to fight some, monsters that, reveal something. Like, again, like,
golem.
or it could be like, it could be as simple as that room with the investigation. Like, let's say it's in like an ancient dungeon. Some like ne'er-do-wells break into the room that you're in while you're searching because it takes some time, and one of them has a note on them that says like, search this room for the book. They were coming there to look for it or something like that. So hey, you know where the book is, or search this room for the secret passage. Then you're like, oh hey, there is supposed to be something here. We just missed it. Maybe we can like work together and like freaking one of them rolls with advantage or uses magic, or they know there's something there, and even if they're beginning to continue to fail their checks, they can get creative in their ways of trying to find it. They're like, man, this is hidden so goddamn well. What the hell can we do? And I'm like, yeah. I don't know, roll above a 10.
No, that
I've given you advantage for like 3 rolls, and none of you've rolled that. You all suck.
Well, welcome to randomness of dice. They hate you.
Yeah. So, I mean, your game and issues in it are only as held back by the dice as much as you let them be held back by the dice. And, that sounds mean to say, because, again, like, it says, like, oh, it's all on you. And it kinda is, but again, like, I understand that we're human. Sometimes we're only so observant. You might miss that, the little thing that you, like, set up or something like that. And honestly speaking, make it more difficult for yourself. Just, maybe that break. Think about something. Come up with a new plan. Might be good. Give your brain some opportunities to think.
Yes, because overworked brains are not good for you.
Yeah. If you set up something that's an issue by accident, regardless of a trap, a monster that rolls too well, a skill check that's failed, something else entirely, sometimes a little break, can help, or, come up with a couple of bonus scenarios to something that like you plan a little ahead of time for in case something comes up. I don't know. There's levels to it. But shall we move on to
Kickstarters?
Kickstarters. I did have one I did want to shout out because it was kind of neat.
Is it G.I. Joe related?
It is not G.I. Joe.
Power Rangers?
It is a Japanese anime tabletop role-playing game, they call it. Picaresque Roman, a Requiem for Rogues. The thing is, it's originally a RPG that was in... it was originally in Japan, so this is an English translation of it.
Ah.
Yeah. So it is very, probably anime because, obvious reasons. But it's funded, and I thought that was kind of neat. It's very like Yakuza, they say it's inspired a little bit by Persona.
Yeah.
So, kind of looks neat. That's it. Just wanted to shout that out. I was keeping the Kickstarter simple. I wasn't looking super into depth on it. I could have. I chose not to.
Yeah. I mean, I am kind of an anime fan person, so it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just glancing at it. Yeah.
Cool. Our week in tabletop.
There was a couple games that were had.
There were a couple of games that were had. Let's see here. We didn't have anything last Saturday because your game's been done.
My game is over. You guys have won the day, technically.
Didn't have anything on Sunday because some issues came up with my DM for the every other week game. So he just canceled on Saturday evening and was like, hey, yeah, I gotta cancel, just some things came up. So I didn't have that then. Let me think. Did I have Pathfinder? I did not. Our GM was suffering from a really terrible migraine and was like, I can't run the game. And I was like, that's acceptable.
Oh, that was me last night.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I was like, pain, head, it's getting worse.
Yeah, brain pain. Hate when those happen. I don't get migraines very often, but when I do, I'm like, yep, yeah, this is awful. This is awful.
When I do, that's upsetting.
Had Star Trek. I did.
I was there for part of it, I think, or all of it. I don't remember.
There were some things that were happening.
I think you finally met the alien dudes, and you translated part of their language or something.
Yeah, and I continued to do things. And
I feel like the Doctor doesn't do enough. But
no,
it's understandable because they're a doctor.
No, the Doctor just does just enough, and it's just hilarious every time. And I can't remember 95% of the other stuff I do.
I know that there was what is it? It's your diplomat person. I forget what their character is called.
Yes, she was trying to sneak through the area.
Yeah, because apparently there was some things said that made them worried about you.
I honestly I can't even remember what was going on that I was supposed to be worried.
So they're trying to avoid you, but they can't because they're bad at sneaking.
Yeah. I also remember our engineer popped in through a Jeffries tube from the ceiling or something, and I was like, huh. I've had a conversation with him, just the sipping tea while the weird shit's going on. I remember
There's
that.
also a one-antennaed, one-legged Andorian who's like, I need to work.
Yeah, he's a little extreme. You gotta worry about that man.
Yeah.
He has a few issues, just a few.
He's got anger problems.
He does have anger problems. Oh.
But he's an Andorian, so...
They normally do. Yes, I agree. Poor Andorians. They're very emotional. Let's see here. Wednesday, I did have Legacies of Kain.
You did.
Where
there was some stuff that happened.
Yeah, they recruited a detective demon and a hunter, and they ended up in Iraq. I don't remember. I can never remember which one it is that has Babylon in it. The ruins of Babylon. I think it's Iraq.
I don't know if it's Iraq.
It is. It's the one that we invaded, and now we're technically out of.
You mean Afghanistan? There's different ones. There's a lot of things there, alright? I can't remember all of them.
Yeah. I think it was Iraq. Yeah. So they ended up there, and I introduced them to a team of hunters that will be accompanying them, and probably not doing much else, honestly speaking. I just wanted to introduce them, because there. And anybody that's They might be familiar to some people, but probably not a lot of people. I do not know how many people will get the references I made.
I don't remember if you made them, so I don't know.
It's technically a original GameCube video game that I referenced. That was a World of Darkness video game on GameCube.
I don't think I've played any GameCube games.
See? You would not know that one. I think they did do versions of it on PS2 and Xbox during the time. I think they did because I think they did 3 games in their series, but they were all hunter-based games. Because apparently, during that time, they decided not to make Vampire the Masquerade or werewolf games, but hunter games.
Maybe that's just what the market share was wanting, or something.
I think the company that originally said it, they did it was because it was probably the most easy for the type of game that they were doing, because it was a very,
Shootery?
Diablo-y? I guess that kind of sort of top down. You're fighting through waves of enemies, exploring a thing. Not really you didn't really have loot, but you had a level up system. Fought big bosses, things like that. So it was like a Diablo style, even though they didn't have a lot of the depth that a Diablo game would have. But that it was certainly that same top down style where you had melee attacks, ranged attacks. I guess the Gauntlet series was also kind of like that too.
Yeah, it's like a hack and slash kind of game.
Yeah, hack and slashy, I think, because I think that Diablo's a very evolved hack and slash, top down hack and slash.
Like an RPG hack and slash.
Yeah. So there was a leveling system where where you leveled up, you got more powers and stuff. And I only remember I really liked playing the Martyr character because you had double pistols, and her special power got her super speed temporarily. So that was fun. She had other powers, but they were lame. You always used the super speed one. Anyway, so that's a reference. Thursday, Children of Wrath came back.
Oh yeah, there was another game that happened before then.
Oh yeah, there was. If you want to talk about that one, because I'm in that one, but you can talk about it.
I don't remember, honestly. Okay, so we're at the temple, which doesn't have a name, so it's just called the Bamboo Temple. I feel like they should name it. It's been there for 15 years now or something.
I mean, the Bamboo Temple sounds nice, actually.
I mean, if you just call it the Bamboo Temple, even though it's in a cursed forest of bamboo, but it's got ghosts in it.
They're not ghosts. They're wraiths or specters, because ghosts aren't real, but wraiths and specters are.
Well, I remember making the original stat block because I made them, and I think they were a combination of ghost and winterwolf is what I made them. So they're ghosts, all right? Just because you're known doesn't believe in ghosts doesn't mean you're not real. You best start believing in ghost stories, you know, scary one.
I mean, we do have a pirate that talks just like that.
Yes, we do have a pirate in the group. It's just Jack Sparrow. Or Barbossa? I don't know. Anyway.
He's more Barbossa, I think.
Yeah, maybe. But, so we're at the temple. We delivered the people. We went to bed. Someone had their foxberry stolen by Kitsune children. And then I used to live at this temple. So I know a couple of people here. So I was wandering around, asking if we need anything. And one of them wanted a gift of. This is coming back. We're gonna come back to the rules discussion here in a second. They wanted a gift of sake for their wife, and so it's like I mean I guess I can do that. So I got money to go buy that, and then there was a temple warrior guy, and he's like, there is something in the forest that I want to deal with. So we go out there, and there's this small girl or something, or young woman, and it looks like she's got her leg injured. I'm playing a paladin, by the way. So I walk up kind of slowly, and it looks like she's hurt. So it's like, well, I guess we can take her back to the temple. She shouldn't be out here in these ghost woods. And so she hasn't done anything hostile to us, and I'm like, I guess I can carry her because she asked, she wanted to move, I think is the one phrase she said to us. So I was like, can I touch her or pick her up? And it's like, yeah, you can pick her up. And then it's like, and then she kind of reaches her arms around you, and it's cold, like the chill touch of the grave. Does a 16 hit you? Because she's trying to attack you. And hey, it turns out she was a ghost, and so we had to beat her up, and I guess purify the woods of at least one ghost. Then we took her remains and like gave them to the temple to like be dealt with, you know. So hopefully she'll like not come back and haunt again.
You say that, but I'm
left.
assuming she probably horribly will and cause more
I
issues.
guess we'll just beat her up again. That's just walking experience at this point. I guess we'll beat the ghost up again.
Not
so
again.
Then we left to go to a town. It's on the way back to our Adventurers Guild place.
Yes.
And we kind of stopped there because the last time we were there, they were talked about missing caravans and stuff. It's like, oh well, you know, on our way back, I guess we can like look into this. So we did a little bit of shopping and stuff. I bought a knife. I looked for some sake, and I rolled investigation or something, which I'm actually decent at. I have like a 4 investigation or something. And I failed all of them because I like rolled a 10 and an 11. And so it's like, yeah, you think you found, or maybe it was persuasion. It was investigation or persuasion. It might have been persuasion because I was talking to people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, you know, they recommend this and recommend this. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I need more opinions. Because I rolled like a 6 and a 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know, I don't think there's any rush on this, so I'm gonna wait and we'll look for sake somewhere else. Because I was ready to spend all 10 gold on it. But this is a gift for the husband of the shrine keeper, who is sort of a friend of mine, but is also friends with, I think, our boss.
Yep.
So I'm like, I don't want to buy something garbage. I'll wait until like maybe we're at a bigger town, or maybe I can talk to someone who's smarter than I am. But then our pirate friend, because we've more failed checks. Here we go. There's a notice board, and on the notice board is some missing persons, and they're like drawn faces that this person is missing, you know. And so I walked past because I was out first. And it's like, yeah, just give me an intelligence check. I think I rolled a 10. Mm-hmm. Literally a 10 with plus nothing. So I'm like, okay, that's what I rolled. And it's like, yeah, this seems familiar, but you can't really quite place it. Well, rather than steal the notice about this one person, I'm just like, I'll just mention it later when I get back to the inn. But then our pirate is out doing something. I forget what they were doing. They might have been going to shop for something. They see it. They also fail the intelligence check to know what it is. But rather than just walk away, they steal it. So we were at the inn conversing, and I was going to wait until everyone was back to talk about the wanted poster. And they show up and they're like, hey, I found this wanted poster. It looks familiar somehow. And then someone else rolls. I think we all failed again. And then our DM rolls for one of the players that is there and gets like a 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of the active players could make this check. It might have been like a DC 12, which is not very high, but we couldn't make it.
We were very bad.
And then so it's like, this is 20. It's like, all right, you recognize this face. It's the guy you cut the scales off of. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's very dead. And then so it's like, we should go and tell the captain of the guard. Perhaps it's a reward.
I remember, this is after one of our characters went up to like the guards people and like tried to tell them about the kobolds in a really terrible way.
And they also, I think, rolled another like 10-ish check. So it was like we rolled so bad. Like everything was, even the ghost fight we rolled pretty bad too. But yeah, apparently the guards had been informed. But that guard didn't go and tell the superiors because the story was so stupid. He's like, I don't believe this person. They're drunk. So then the pirate goes to the guard captain, who was an older Kitsune gentleman, and is like, yeah, you're not going to find this guy because we killed him.
Is there a reward? A pirate is really, really bad at his job.
So then it's like, I think you should stay here and we're going to go collect your friends. And he's like, of course, collect them and give us our reward. They're at the inn, but the other one is out of buying things. I think she's going to buy a knife.
And I was like, I think at this point in time, like, they arrested us, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy, he was talking to you? Oh, you should be careful of him. He was talking about eating gnomes.
Yeah, he ate one of his crew members or something.
It was really like he was trying to be, like, intimidating, but I'm like, I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, because you're weird.
And our bard rogue, I think, was going to try and sneak away.
Uh-huh.
Nat 1 stealth check.
We were not good at anything.
No, it was awful. We're just all bad. And then so they're looking for me. They didn't have like an exact location, but I imagine there's not a lot of different shops. So it's just like, go check the shops for this person. And so they find me, and I'm like, hi. And then it's like, they look at me, and it's like they realize I'm a paladin. You know, like I have this temple robe like garb that I wear, and they're like, oh, okay, we want you to go to the guard shop, the place, to like clear up some misunderstanding that's going on, because like they realize what I am, and so it's like, okay, because I was ready for like just the party's arrested and that's the game. That'd be the end of this session, but I guess luckily for the pirate, they travel with a paladin.
Yep.
the paladin babysitter. That's me. So I show up, and I don't get to explain what actually happened, which is probably better because I'm a very blunt person. I just kind of state things how they are. So now we have the rest of the Chaos group all in one, telling this insane story. Parts of it are actually true, you know, like, oh yeah, these lizard monster guys, I'm like, yeah, the kobolds. They attacked us on the road. It was self-defense, and then we killed them. Listen, where we killed them. They attacked a shipping thing. Like, there was more talk about how he murdered them than how they were the bad guys, and we stopped them from doing evil things.
Yeah, sounds about
but
right.
Eventually, I think the guard captain was just tired of the idiots. He's just like, whatever, just leave. We'll go check it out. So I actually didn't have to explain anything.
I think we've been like tasked with like, why don't you look into this to help us out or something here, or like something like that.
Yeah. But also don't leave town. So it's like, that's suspicious. And he's like, wait, I mean, we'd like you to stay in town for a little bit, and then we have something for you to go help.
Yeah.
It was so insane.
Yeah, pirate's bad. I don't like I'm pretty sure my character doesn't like the pirate very much because he's weird, and he keeps.
I don't know if anybody likes the pirate.
The pirate's there.
The pirate also keeps stealing money from the druid.
Yeah.
Because the druid's like, I don't know what to do with money. I guess you can have it. So it's like, great, it's mine now.
Like the first time I was like, that's kind of weird. Now, like after a couple more times, I'm like, I'm kind of getting suspicious because my character's probably slow to this kind of thing. He's not technically feral. He's only partially feral. He's slightly feral. Look, his mom raised badgers for a living and was lazy, and, you know, when you're raising badgers and just letting the badgers look after the baby for a while, you know, that's kind of how it works out. I'm not saying I had a bad childhood, because it was fine childhood. I'm saying I had a bad mother, because you let badgers help raise me.
Yeah, you were raised with badgers, and your name is Badger. But you go by the nickname of Wolverine. Because you're tired of being confused by the Badgers who you're named after. You had a weird mom.
I had a weird mom. I don't mention my father at all, for probably reasons. I also believe that all merchants are evil. Well, not all merchants are evil. Most merchants are evil. There are some good ones. You have to look out for the good ones, because most are evil.
Yeah, that's weird.
I think it's because, like, you know, we didn't really have merchants in our small, like, gnomish village the same way. And then, like, you know, in my entire, like, backstory as a folk hero, someone came in and, like, swindled the crap out of us, so I took all the money back from them and brought it back, you know?
You wouldn't beat up a merchant.
Because he swindled our money. They swindled money out of us.
A legitimate businessman shows up in your podunk village and is like, I'm going to sell some things. And then maybe slightly embellishes a little bit of what they can do. And the people are like, oh, it can do anything. He's like, oh, yeah, sure, why not? It can totally do anything. If you believe hard enough. Give me your money now. So he makes all this legitimate trade and then leaves. And then the people are like, wait a minute. This doesn't give me the ability to fly? I don't what? He said it could do anything. No. You asked for it to do anything, and he said, sure, why not? So then this one guy's like, of course, Badger is on the case. You run down this legitimate businessman, beat the crap out of him, take all of his money, and go over to the town. So you're actually a thief background, because they paid for those things.
But
so not only did they get those things for free, there was assault.
This might be the actual story, but we'll never know for sure.
No, we'll never know for sure, because we're not there.
No, we're not there. But everybody in town believes I'm a folk hero, and that's what matters.
Yeah. To them, you're a hero. To the merchant, you're a villain.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
And then Children of Wrath was back, as I said, which, it worked pretty good. We got a new character in, who's interesting. I do like, Momo's character. We had some, interesting going-arounds, and, I may or may not horribly punish Mads for, once again, derailing it with her, constant obsession with certain, materials that she should not. So it's probably going to cause issues yet again every time she does it.
When does it not cause issues? I
I
wasn't even there for the whole session.
Honestly, every time she doesn't go like, I'll just stick with, like, you know, smoke leaf / weed, you know, it's like, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. I'm just gonna say that there. They're now dealing with, like, Vidushino gangsters. So they're basically going and talking to the Vidushino Mafia.
Cool.
This will go well.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting in trouble with the mob.
Uh-huh.
Also,
I specifically mentioned there has been a crackdown on illegal activities in town by the person that's in charge of it.
But why would players listen to the DM?
I know. Why would they listen to this obvious warning I'm giving them?
Yeah. In here, this is a deeper discussion thing we may or may not want to add to the list.
Mm-hmm.
Is players feeling like they can do no wrong? I feel like I've seen this a lot recently, where like the consequences of actions are just like, well, we're the heroes, we're the adventuring party. There's no consequences. Everything is good for us. I don't know if that's a deeper discussion-worthy thing, but it's just something that I've noticed a lot lately.
I did have a topic on there, player consequences / choices that affect the overall story. But we could do, like, player
that's kind of in the same vein.
Consequences to stupidity. There we go. I could just say player consequences to stupidity, which is the...
I mean, it's not necessarily stupidity.
I know.
It's more of just like I've just seen certain people where they just believe their character is like can do no wrong or is invincible, and then will argue with the DM about like, punishing them for being like that and think that they're being targeted when they're not.
I could add the topic player invincibility to decisions and actions, because then we could combine it with the invincibility in action with the invincibility in decision, which is what we're talking about, kind of, where like they can do no wrong, nothing can go bad about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do that next week when we might have more people.
Yeah, player invincibility to decisions and actions, because that's half a topic. And the other half is when they just are like, I could be defeated by nothing, or something like that. And yeah,
that guy from GoldenEye, the hacker guy, Boris. I'm invincible.
Yes.
He gets hit by liquid nitrogen and dies.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, he said I'm invincible out of character, but in character, specifically at his DM, and his DM like, all right, so the liquid nitrogen breaks and freezes you, and now you're dead.
Yeah.
Roll new character.
Mm-hmm. Roll a new villain.
Yeah, roll a new villain character.
But anyway. Okay. That's it for today then. I don't think there's any other games. Do you have something on Friday or not?
Our Friday game was canceled.
All right. And that's it.
Yeah. I am trying to get a game going, but it's going to be a text-only game, so that's interesting. But 2 out of the 3 players haven't done anything, so that basically is going nowhere. And I'm also plotting what the next game I would run would be. But it's probably not going to be for a while, because there's some other games that are happening on Saturdays, specifically next Saturday.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're in that.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
That's not until next week.
Yeah, I at least know the next 2 areas that the Children of Wrath team are going to, so that helps a lot. They're heading to Yavimaya and then to Shiv. After that, I don't know what their exact plans are. I'll have to find out for the future. At some point, they're going to Urborg.
No one needs plans.
I mean, it did so well for them so often.
Side quests, the game.
It really ended up being that the last season. But I think that's probably a good place to leave it off here. Thank you for joining us today. Is Josh still streaming? I might rate him. He was talking.
I don't know. It looks like he is.
I'll probably rate him then. I will probably Legacies of Kain definitely this week. Tuesday or Wednesday, 7 p.m. That's the finale right now. As I said on Children of Wrath, if something happens, I will schedule it for the next week because I want at least the 3 main players I've got there right now joining us. So that's what we're scheduling for it. It should be the finale, the next session. If we have to put it off a week, we will, but we're going to try to do it then. Children of Wrath continuing on Thursday at 9. Tuesday at 9 on Unfunny One's channel, twitch.tv/unfunnyon. That's Star Trek. I'll try to get a couple of gaming streams in or something, get back to those this week, since it is a less busy week, and I am now feeling better again.
Phasmophobia had an update. The hunts are awful, but good.
I thought about it, I know, Josh was just not as much for it. It sounded like when I was talking a little bit about it, but I do want to do some more Phasmophobia. I didn't do a lot of it. As long as I'm not playing with Lindsay. Lindsay, I like you a lot. You're awful at Phasmophobia. You murder the shit out of us, and that's not as fun. Murdering the shit should come naturally, not to another player in that game. I should definitely play more of Phasmophobia then, though.
Yeah, I have the game, so if you need someone who's also terrible.
Yeah. I would definitely have to... As I thought I said about that game, I do like that game, but, replayability for long term requires, a lot of, sometimes things, I know there's plenty of people that play with, spookier notifications, or, I've seen a couple of people do, bets on things for games like that, but those are hard to do when you're a smaller channel, so I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, some gaming at some point this week, probably. I'll try to throw some schedules in. Other than that, hopefully you can join me, possibly Lightning, and some other folks next Saturday, 2 p.m. EST, for more Discussing Tabletop with some more interesting topics to talk about and another deeper topic to discuss, which can hopefully help people out there understand your table a little bit more and maybe improve your RPG experience. I hope that's what a lot of our deeper discussions do, is people listen to them. So, anyway.
Unfortunately, a lot of it boils down to know your table, but we do try and mention options.
Yeah. Because, knowing your table is 90% of the time what the right thing to do is, but that's not always easy to do anyway, because of various reasons. So, anyway.
People are different.
Yeah, and situations can be abound, If you're in a one-shot, you might not know your table as much as if you know, a group that you've been playing with for an epic campaign. Yeah. So, anyway, till next time then, farewell everybody, goodbye.
Bye.